วัสดีครับทุกคนครับยินดีต้อนรับครับ Hello everyone, welcome to another coding session. วันนี้เราจะทบทวนเกี่ยวกับ CSS. Today we're going to learn about CSS and CSS styling, which is known as cascading style sheets. So cascading style sheets. ทำไม CSS สำคัญมากเพราะว่า CSS เป็นวิธีถ้าผมอยากใช้ web page responsive, so I can make web pages have color, come alive, give it all sorts of text styling. I can do all types of markup, underlining, hovering. I can do all sorts of things like that in CSS. So เราทบทวน HTML เป็นน่าเบื่อมาก. It looks really boring. It's very simple. It doesn't have a whole lot of things going on, but CSS adds life to your HTML. So it is probably the fastest and most common way to be able to add colors, add style, add everything to your web page, and currently has a lot of frameworks associated to it as well. So if we want to use Bootstrap by Twitter, it's a very, very famous one, very common one. So I will introduce Bootstrap at a later date, but today I want to get you introduced to the basics. วันนี้จะแนะนำ basics ของ CSS และใช้ CSS อย่างไรและplug in ถึง HTML, plug in ให้ HTML อย่างไรด้วยครับ. So one thing to note, CSS is not a programming language. CSS และ HTML ไม่เป็น programming language. ไม่มี logic gates, ไม่มี if, fors, ไม่มี classes, ไม่มี objects. แค่จำเป็นต้องเขียนว่า what you see is what you get, WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. That is CSS. So in our text editor in Sublime, ผมมีไฟล์ ผมจะ save ไฟล์นี้และเริ่ม project ใหม่ CSS Intro .html ครั้งที่แรกเราจำเป็นต้องสร้าง HTML page ของเราหลังจากนั้นเราจะเรียก CSS ข้างใน HTML. So I save that, and now I have on my desktop I have CSS Intro. Oops, did I save it to my desktop? There we go, CSS Intro. และไม่มีอะไรข้างใน web page ของเรา. So let's build our boilerplate. จะสร้าง boilerplate ของเราและข้างใน boilerplate ระหว่าง body tag จะสร้าง section tag และข้างใน section tag. This is our CSS introduction. พิมพ์ไม่ได้วันนี้ขอโทษครับ. So now if I refresh, I have CSS introduction here. It looks really boring, really bland. So now, as we saw before, เราจำเป็นต้องเรียก CSS file จาก HTML. So จะสร้าง HTML จะสร้าง CSS file. So I'm going to create this one as my style.css, and again I'll save it to the desktop. So now I have style.css here. Now in my HTML and in my style, how do I link these two together? เชื่อมต่อทั้งสองไฟล์นี้อย่างไรครับติดต่ออย่างไรครับ So I have to do inside of my head section, inside of this section ข้างใน head section ข้างในส่วน head ผมจะเพิ่ม add CSS. Link is the extension. So I have a open tag link tag with a relative and style sheet, and my href is the name of the file. จะเขียนว่า file name ข้างในนี้ so ผมเรียกว่า style.css ข้างใน href ผมจะเขียนว่า style.css แค่นั้นครับ. So now if I go back to my document and I do a control reload or control R for reload, I don't get anything เพราะว่าผมไม่ใส่ข้างใน style sheet ของเราที่นี่ถ้าเกิดว่าไม่อยากเพิ่ม style sheet link ที่นี่ใช้แบบนั้นข้างในไฟล์ตัวเองได้และถ้าเกิดว่าผมอยากเปลี่ยนนี้ผมเขียนว่า h1 และ font family font family sans-serif. Save, reload here, และเปลี่ยนนี้ได้ so I can เพิ่มข้างใน HTML ตัวเองได้ข้างใน style tag. so ถ้าเกิดว่ามี style tag ใส่ข้างใน h1 tag ใส่ทั้งหมดsettings ข้างใน CSS ของ CSS ข้างใน HTML directly แต่อันนี้ practice ไม่ดี so this is bad practice to put CSS directly into my HTML. It is advised to put CSS into its own file. So today, I'm going to show you how to do CSS in its own file. So if I want to have this, and if I wanted to do something like section tag, display, display block, and I want to have a margin on the top, margin, I want to have 20 pixels all around. Now I see it changes position. I can change the position of where it is. So I can do also width 10%, and this will change how much width I have. How do I know what changes are taking place? I can go into view, developer tools, and I'm just showing you random things right now. ตอนนี้ผมแสดงว่า random things at the moment เพราะว่าผมจะเปลี่ยนถึง CSS file เลยจะแสดงว่าทั้งหมดนี้คืออะไร so don't pay attention to this right now. I'm going to cover all of these in a moment. But how do we see our style sheet? So in here, this is our HTML. อันนี้ทั้งหมดนี้คือ HTML ของเราครับถ้าเกิดว่าผมอยากเห็นว่า styling ของเราด้านซ้ายหรือด้านขวาจะแสดงว่า style sheet ของเราครับ so the right side shows the styling. If I go to section, now I see my section has a display block. ผมเขียน display block ที่นี้มี margin 20 pixels, margin 20 pixels ที่นี้และมี width 10%มี width 10% เขียนที่นี้ข้างใน browser ของผมไม่มีข้างใน file, not in the file, but in the browser. If I want to see these changes live, I can uncheck, and now I see the CSS changed. I can see that CSS changes, goes back and forth if I check or uncheck. If I change the width, I can change that. But in my file, ข้างใน file ของผมไม่มีเปลี่ยนอะไรอันนี้เปลี่ยนแค่ข้างใน browser ข้างใน live view ของผมแค่นั้นครับ so I can take away the block, I can do a margin, I can take away the width, I can even change the value. So if I wanted to change the value ถ้าว่าผมเปลี่ยนนี้ถึง100 pixels จะแสดงว่า okay, now I have 100 pixels for my margin คืออะไร width คืออะไร padding คืออะไรผมจะแสดงว่าเมื่อไรจะอธิบาย style sheet CSS ในรายละเอียด so now if I look at my H1 I have a font family of sans-serif. If I remove sans-serif we see the font change. So every element HTML, head tag, body tag, section tag all has CSS applied to it. So inside my body is where most of my CSS will be. So I have section has CSS, H1 has CSS. Now, I'll show you about inheritance and everything else, but first, ครั้งที่เด็กผมอยาก I want to remove ผมอยากลบ style sheet จาก HTML แล้วก็ใส่ข้างในไฟล์ตัวเองข้างใน style.css. So what I'm going to do is copy all of this, cut it, and paste it in here. Change up the formatting a little bit. Formatting ไม่เป็นไรครับไม่ต้อง format ทุกต้อง doesn't matter how the format is in here as long as I have open curly braces, close curly brace, and every line has this semicolon. Every line needs to end with a semicolon. So I will show the format in just a moment. So we've gotten rid of style, but now I will refresh this page, and there we go. Our styling stayed the same. Our custom styling, our styling that we did here to change this to 100 goes away. So if I change this back to 100 pixels and I look at that page and then I reload this page, that styling will always go away. But here, my style CSS in this file, if I change it to 100 now, will now apply once I save it and come in here. So now I know ผมรู้ว่าตอนนี้ไม่มี style ข้างใน page นี้ผม comment out ทั้งหมดได้ครับและตอนนี้เปลี่ยนข้างใน style sheet ของเรา directly. So now we can change the styles inside of here directly. So I'm going to comment all of that out. And if you notice, the comments are slightly different. Comment นี้ใช้ /* และสุดท้ายมี / star. So these are comments in here. Now if I refresh this, we go back to our original CSS introduction. Okay, so why do I want to show you all of that? Now we have an idea of how to use CSS styling. Now if I want to break it down and add in specific styling for the body is this whole background. ทั้งหมด background คือ body ถ้าเกิดว่าเราคลิกบน body here เราจะเห็นว่า body สีส้มข้างนอกแล้วก็สีฟ้าข้างในและข้างใน body มี section highlight ตัวนี้เป็นสีฟ้าและ H1 เป็น section สีฟ้าและสีส้มด้วย So it's got the orange border or orange margin, blue padding. The section tag has blue padding, and the body tag has, or content, sorry, section has blue content, H1 has blue content and orange margin. And now we have the body, which has a slight margin to it and a blue interior for the content. So we can change the body, and we want to type in body to grab the tag. So this body, อันนี้เหมือนกันคำศัพท์นี้ so it's the same as this body here, so I have to use the same word. And when I come back into my body, I have to use open bracket, open bracket, closed bracket, พูดมาได้ and then inside open bracket, closed bracket, inside this section ข้างในส่วนนี้ผมจะเขียนว่าbackground, actually color. So this will be for my text color, and I can type in just red. So this is my text color. Now if I refresh, changes to red. Some browsers ถ้าเกิดว่าสามารถ CSS และไม่เห็นเปลี่ยนข้างใน web page อาจจะมีปัญหาครับอาจจะมีปัญหาไม่มี semicolon สุดท้ายครับและ if I do that, it might work, it might not work. So it depends on your browser. This may break it, it might not work. If I get rid of that colon there, it may work, it might not work. What we'll see is an error here, unknown property name. เพราะว่าผมเขียนผิดผมเขียนไม่ถูก So automatically what CSS will do is if it does not see ถ้าไม่เห็น colon ทีนี้จะเพิ่ม colon สุดท้ายตัวเองแล้วก็อันนี้ผิดเพราะว่าจะคิดว่าอันนี้เป็น property ไม่มี attribute อันนี้ทั้งสอง property และ attribute. So format is property, or sorry, attribute, and the value of the attribute followed by a semicolon. So the attribute here is color. So this is wrong. And this is correct. So we have color, red, and colon. If we want to make it even more clear, attribute, colon, value, semicolon. So that's that symbol there, and colon is that symbol. That's the format. So if I save it again, now we have CSS introduction, เปลี่ยนถึงสีแดงครับ So now CSS introduction changes to the color red. Now, after that, we want to talk about background color, which is very common, background. And I'm going to change my background to color 333. I can use the color name, or I can put in custom specific color. And now my background changes to a darker color. Darker the color, so if I put 000, changes to black, And the maximum I can go is FFF, white. So 0, 0, 0 equals black, and FFF equals white. Now, what is this? Color is done in what's called hexadecimal. Colors are done in hexadecimal. And that means that it is 16-bit characters, and every color, red, blue, green, RBG, has two values per color. So this stands for red, blue, green. Red, blue, green. Combination of these three colors, red, blue, and green, make up the entire spectrum of color. So if I wanted to change the background here to background RBG, now I can put in a custom value, or I can put in AABBCC. I don't know what this color will look like, but let's take a look. It changes to this nice bluish gray, grayish blue color. All right, but what if I wanted to change it to a custom color that is based on opacity, that has some opacity to it? So background RBGA, so I can put an RBG and then put in 34, 45, 40, 255. So I can put in those numbers, and now I get a very different background. Or if I wanted to have opacity, background RBGA, and in here I'm going to put in the same 34, 45, 255, but this is an opacity. Opacity is see-through transparency. So I want to put in 0.5. And now if I refresh, we have an almost purple color, a lavender color. If I change that to 0.1, now it's almost white. If I change it to 0.9, now we're almost back at our normal blue. So how heavy do I want the color in this particular combination? 34, 45, 255, 0.9, 0.5, 0.1. So just wanted to show you opacity. If I wanted to have the property of opacity, I can add that as well. And this will be red, blue, green as individual numbers. And here, color as a specific value. So if I wanted to, I could change this to, these values are going to be in hexadecimal, hex values. This is going to be as numeric values. And these are going to be numeric with opacity. Red, blue, green as numeric with opacity. That's the difference. So you may see hex numbers, or you may see 0 through F, so hexadecimal. Let's go to, if you're not familiar with hexadecimal, quick intro on hexadecimal. Hexadecimal is 0 through F. 0 through F equals 16 numbers. Now, F being the fifth letter of the alphabet, sixth letter, sorry, and then you have 0 through 9. So you have 16 numbers that equate to doing hexadecimal. So you should have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you won't have 10. You'll have A, B, C, D, E, F. So together, all of these equate to 16 numbers, and then the position is dependent upon how much I will cube or square the number. Square, cube, or keep multiplying 16 by itself. So positions help indicate what the value will be for hexadecimal. But for now, don't worry about knowing hexadecimal. We can get this color from any color palette or color chart. So for now, this is going to be this is going to be my text color. Text color will use the parameter of color. And then we have background. So background will use the parameter or attribute of background. All right, so now I have my background color there, and refresh, and it's all white. If I want to change this, I personally like something like that color there. It's a light gray, easy to see. All right, now we're going to mess around with margins. And this one is going to be a little confusing, but I will show you exactly what margins do. So I'm going to grab my H1 tag, and I'm going to mess around with CSS Introduction. Now my H1 tag, I'm going to give it padding of 50 pixels. We're going to see what padding does. Now I'm going to save that. Now if I go to my section, tagawa pom hover kangbon H1 pom select or look H1 pom henwa mi si ngun or si kiao ขอโทษครับ si kiao le si som. I have my margin and I have my padding. So I have added padding. If I get rid of that, เลยจะทำ refresh จะไม่มี padding มีแค่สีส้มไม่มี padding. So I'm going to add padding back in, and padding goes all around. So now I see the padding, and if I look ข้างใน CSS ของเราข้างหลังผมจะเห็นว่านี่ content ของเราครับ This is all my content 900 by 28 pixels 900 wide by 28 high. So width เป็น 900 pixels และสูง28 pixels. Height is 28 pixels. Then I look at my padding. All around my entire thing, I'm adding 50 below, I'm adding 50 on the right, I'm adding 50 on top, and I'm adding 50 on the left. I don't have a border, I have zero border, and automatically I have margin on the top and margin on the bottom. That comes with H1 tags. I can change that. So, ถ้าผมอยากลบ margin แค่จำเป็นต้องเขียนว่า margin 0 และ margin จะเปลี่ยน now I have 0 margin 0 border only padding. Now สีส้มลบแล้วครับไม่มีสีส้มบนเพจของเราครับ so we don't have the orange color anymore for margin. If I want to bring that back 50 pixels for my margin, let's see what that looks like. Now I have 50 pixels for my margin. I have no border whatsoever, and I'll show you about borders. I have padding, and then I have my content. And that's it. So padding, margin, border. So now I can bring this content into the middle, into the center, however I want to do it. Now if I want to align this, I can do text align, center. And now that moves it into the center based on my margin and my padding. So I have margin there, I have padding there, and then I have centered. So if I got rid of the margin, it's not really going to do a whole lot. It'll just move it up. That's it, because I've gotten rid of my margin and it's gone to the default. If I got rid of my padding, same thing. It's just going to move it up or down because my text is in the center. If I want to move my text to the left, I can make it come to the left. If I want to move it to the right, ถ้าเกิดว่าผมอยากเปลี่ยนถึงด้านขวาได้ครับ So I can use text align to move my text around wherever I want to. Now, what if ถ้าเกิดว่าผมอยากใช้margin right left เฉพาะผมอยากใช้ margin padding เฉพาะ So I'm going to get rid of that margin there, and with this padding I'm going to get rid of both of these. So this is margin and padding equal all around. So now I want to have specific side margin and padding. First of all, I should say up above here, margin is outside the border, and padding is outside the content. So this will give margin gives space from other objects. Padding gives space around the object. The result looks the same, but the functions are very different. And I'll show you when we actually have different elements on how that will change. But for now, I just want to show you specific sides of the margin and the padding. So if I have padding and I want specific, I want the siding goes from, let's do this, 50 pixels, 50 pixels, actually 10 pixels. And we'll see how this changes as we move around. So now in my padding, I've got 50 pixels top and bottom, and I've got 10 pixels left and right. So if we just have two values equals top, bottom, and left, right. So first value is top, second value is left, right. So on both sides, we have 10 pixels and 10 pixels. Above and below, we have 50 pixels. But different value up above and different value below ไม่เท่ากันผมอยากใช้เฉพาะ value ข้างบนข้างล่างด้านซ้ายด้านขวา Then I can have all four values be different. So this one goes top, left, bottom, and right, clockwise. So I go top, right, bottom, left. Now what I mean by that is if we do padding, and I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 pixel, 2 pixels, 3 pixels, 4 pixels. Now we'll see in my padding I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So top, right, bottom, left. Same with margin. Same exact concept with margin. So I'll copy these again, and we'll see 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we can see that our margins and our padding up above, very thin margin, very thin padding, but we still have it. ถ้าเกิดว่าอยากเพิ่มถึง10 20 30 40 ได้ครับ So we can change all of these if we want to, just to add more emphasis. But this should give you an idea of how to change different values for margin and spacing. Now, if I wanted to, underneath here I have an H1, and I wanted to put in a paragraph tag here. This is dummy text. All right. How does that show up? This is dummy text right here. I want to change the color of the dummy text. Right now, my default color in my body for everything is red. How do I change from the default? So if it's in the body, I should put above here, this will be the default for all elements. This is what we would call the master container. The section is a sub-container inside the body. So if the section doesn't have anything, then it won't change. So let's actually show that real quick. I want to show you what happens with the section tag. So inside the body, we have the section tag. And I want to change the background of just the section tag. And I want to change this to AAA, whatever that looks like. So now the section tag changes. So ทั้งหมดข้างใน section กลองจะเปลี่ยนถึง background นี้ครับเพราะว่าผมเรียก section tag ตัวเอง so I call the section tag by itself, which is different than the body container and the body tag. All right, so hopefully that gives you an idea of how to separate different colors. If we added another section here, section, second section, and I'm going to show you inside here. Hopefully I can do this. Lorem 10. So what Lorem 10 does inside HTML, inside Sublime Text Editor, Visual Studio Code, most Sublime editors, it gives me dummy text. So if I wanted to use Lorem 100, I can have 100 words, or Lorem 1000, I can have 1,000 words that show up, or I can have 8 words that show up. And I just hit tab, and that's it. So now if I do that, I have second section, and I have this. Mi panhan noy pa wa. This is going to apply to all section tags, not just this section or this section.จะสามารถทั้งสอง section tag และ H1 จะสามารถทั้งสอง H1 tag. So this is going to apply to both H1 tags, and you can see similar styling. ถ้าอยากใช้ styling แบบนี้ใช้ได้แต่ปกติเราอยากใช้ individual. So here I can say ID sec1, and I can have here ID sec2. And in my H1, I can have a class of sec1 H1, and I can have a class of sec2 H1. And inside my paragraph tag, I will add a class of sec2 P, and inside this paragraph tag, class sec2 sec1 P. These names are horrible, but for now it's what I'm using because it makes it very easy. Sec1 sec1 H1 sec1 P, sec2 sec2 H1 sec2 P. Makes it very easy for me to be able to know section 1 section 2. So now when I go to my styling, I have this section tag, but I don't want to use that section tag. ไม่อยากใช้ section tag นั้นหรือถ้าอยากใช้ section tag นั้นใช้ได้แต่ไม่อยากใช้ผมแค่อยากแสดงว่า ID. This is how to call IDs. So we have sec1, and inside here I want my background to be AAA. And now we have sec1 with AAA, and I want to have sec2 have its own background. And this one I'm going to have as 333, making it really simple. So now I have 2 sections, 2 different colors. Awesome. Section 1, section 2. Here I have my H1 tag, but I don't want to have for both H1 tags. I just want to have it, whoops. I want to have it for only the H1 tag that is per section. So, Kangnai, you'll very commonly see section 1, section 2. And inside section 1, underneath this comment, underneath sec 1, I'm going to use a dot for, whoops, let me move this one down. And this is how to call classes. So sec1 H1. And now I can change this color to blue. This is not going to look pretty, but there it is. Now why did it move all the way over here? ทำไมย้ายจากที่นี้ถึงที่นี้เพราะว่า section 1 H1 มีแค่1 attribute แค่ color blue เราลบทั้งหมด property นี้ so none of these values apply. Now we have just the color blue. If I want to add a margin, if I want to do any of that, center the text, text, align, and center. Now we have that. And I want to add some padding up above. So padding. ข้างบนผมอยากเพิ่ม30 pixel และแค่นั้นไม่อยากใช้อื่น so I can do that, and now I've pushed it down. Or I can use a specific property called padding top and call it 30 pixels. ผมไม่ชอบใช้ padding top ผมชอบใช้ padding ธรรมดาเพราะว่ามีควบคุมมากกว่าธรรมดา And now if I want to change my section 1 P tag, my paragraph tag, this is my paragraph tag in section 1. So I can now change this to color purple. And we see it changes the color purple. And I want to give this some margin. And I want to change the margin here to 50 pixels. And I want to give it some text align. Oops. Key in my die. Text align, center. And we'll see what happens. Now I've got margin around this one for 50 pixels. So notice what happens though. So ถ้าเกิดว่าผมจะ highlight P class เราเห็นว่าทำไมกล่องไม่ได้ไปใหญ่กว่าธรรมดาครับ So why didn't the box itself, why didn't the gray area increase its size? So remember, margin is from other objects. So this made it 50 pixels from this second object. It did not give me margin, or it did not give me space around my object. It forced this box down, so it's separated away from here. Now, if I don't like that behavior, I can change this to padding 50 pixels, and now it will all be contained inside this box here. So big difference. You want to play around with this. You want to try the difference between padding and margin. Again, margin is from other elements. Padding is around my elements. So that's a very difficult concept to understand, but play around with it. Margin is from other elements. Padding is around my element. Okay, now we have text align center here and text align center here. This is okay, it works. There, ไม่ดีข้างใน programming. So we want to take text align center and we can move it up to my section. So we can say text align and we can just say center. And refresh and it all stays the same. Cool. CSS introduction. This is dummy text. And now I have my second section here. Now my second section, section 2, I have a different background. Now what I want to do is ผมอยากแค่เปลี่ยนสถานที่ or change the place of this over inside a little bit right around down here because I just want to have it offset slightly. So what I can do now is section 1H1, I can put around a padding and I want to give it 100 pixels of padding. And we'll see what that looks like. Okay. Oops, I made the wrong one. So section 2H1. There we go. Okay, that's a lot of padding. Now I have so much space around this one. But that gives me space all around. I don't want all around. I just want maybe top, maybe on the left. So if I just want it on the top and the left, top, this will be my right side, my bottom side, and another on my left side. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, much better. Now I've moved that over down to the section I want, and maybe I want this to be 50 pixels instead. So I want it to be up a little higher. Okay, nice. Now I can work on the paragraph tag. And the same exact concept applies here for the paragraph tag, section 2, paragraph. And I want to have it offset come right down in this area. So I'm going to apply another padding, and I'm going to say the padding on the top is 50 pixels, which is okay. My padding on the bottom is going to, padding on the left is 0, padding on the bottom is going to be 50 pixels. ผมอยากใช้ขนาดใหญ่กว่าข้างหลังครับและในด้านซ้ายผมอยากเพิ่ม200 pixels ครับ Okay, perfect. That might be a little too far over for the left for my liking, but let's see what it looks like. Yeah, there we go. That looks nice to me. So now we have different placement, different sections, offsets on this page. Now it still looks really, really basic, but I wanted to show you how to be able to get different styling and different sections and understand the margin, the padding, and the content of how this works. So I leave it up to you. If you go to this site here, I'll post it in the link. We can show you how to do straight, just CSS cheat sheets, and create a web page that uses Flexbox and Grid and then is able to create a more stylistic page. Chai's page style. This is purely CSS, backgrounds, banners. We have hovers in here, and then we've got specific background images, background pictures, and then how do we get the alignment. And then this is an area where you can figure out how to make these align properly inside that section. So If you want more information or more practice, give it a shot and try out the CSS on your own. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, but I just wanted to show you today a basic introduction. Next time, we will build out an actual CSS web page, and I'll show you the difference between Flexbox and Grid. Thank you very much. เราจะเจอกันครั้งหน้าครับ Bye bye.